Hello and welcome to this exciting tutorial on how to draw an animated image all inside Photoshop. Don't need to use After Effects or any other kind of video programs. It's all in Photoshop. So, and I'm using, by the way, I'm using Photoshop CC 2018. So I'm not sure how far that goes back. So hopefully your version supports everything I'm going to show you. It's not a whole lot to it. So I'm going to show you the final effect that we're shooting for. This is a video I did for a public adjuster, and let's see what she looks like. All right, let's watch it one more time. It's so exciting, and I love the music. Okay, so hopefully this is reminiscent back to the days when there were actually chalkboards in schools. I grew up with them. I always hated it when the teacher would go up to the board and she would like halfway erase everything, so like all these dots left over. I learned early that I was anal retentive because I wanted to go up and erase everything, or she'd haphazardly just erase it, and then, I mean, it'd take her 10 minutes instead of just going side to side. But I was often volunteered for the chalk eraser cleaning crew, which means that I got to go out to the parking lot and slap all the erasers together in a cloud of dust and get out of class. And anyway, all right, so let's go and get started. I'm going to open up my background. This is what I call the chalkboard background. And there are several tutorials online about how to make a chalkboard. There's using the render difference clouds with black and white and smearing things and so forth. I don't even remember exactly how I made this. I just kind of pushed stuff around until it looked like a chalkboard. And I wanted it to look like it's a used chalkboard, so hence the dirtiness here. But anyway, this is what we're going to start with, and now I need something to trace. So here is a house that I wanted to draw in animated fashion with chalk. Now, there's a big problem that I have with Photoshop, and that is I'm not an artist. I'm not good at drawing things. I can look at it, I could change stuff. I'm not that good, really. So what I wanted to do is take this image and make it look like I was drawing it in chalk, animated. So it's a video, not just a finished image. I saw many tutorials online of how I could convert this image using filters and so forth, so it looked like it was drawn in chalk, but I needed it to actually be drawn. And I tried several times, but I'm telling you what, just drawing a straight line is tough for me, much less a house. Or I could get halfway done and I'd screw it up and have to start over. So this is the way that I did it, and it seemed to work. So I wanted to share that with you guys because I know you're all interested in how this miracle came to be. So first of all, I'm going to lower the opacity of my house, and I'm just going to call it house. I know that's probably confusing and a far reach, but we'll start with that. And I'm going to click on a new layer, and I'm going to call this one Trace. I actually knew a guy named Trace one time. Good guy. And now we have that set up, so I'm just going to zoom in a little bit, and we're going to come over here with our pen tool, and I've got a brush that I called My Chalk. Pretty creative, right? Now the good news is you don't have to download a brush or do anything fancy. I'll tell you, I really used this charcoal large smear and made a few modifications to it and called it My Chalk. So you can do that with the charcoal large smear. Now Photoshop has this chalk brush. I just didn't like it. It had too much grain in there, and I needed it to look tighter. So all I did, I'm going to click on this, and you can see it's 36 pixels. It's ginormous, and it's pointing directly, the brush is pointing directly 90 degrees to the right. So what I did is I took my chalk and made it 7 pixels and 45 degree. You just grab this thing and move it around, and went to about 45 degrees. And that worked a lot better. So now You can see the opacity set to 100, flow 100, smoothing 0. I'm not even sure what all those do, but that's what it is. And now the hard part, and that is to do the tracing. So I'm going to take all the pertinent elements of this image and start tracing. So I'm going to go from the corner here and imagine, so I clicked once, I'm going to imagine that about here, I'm going to hold down Shift and click again, draws a straight line. You guys already probably know this. So now I'm going to hold down Shift, and I'm just going to go to all these corners and click. It goes pretty fast. And we'll just go up here. And now, through the beautiful, wonderful magic of video, I'm going to skip ahead so you guys don't have to watch me trace this whole thing. And I'll be back in just a second. Okay, and now I'm done. And my tracing is complete, or it's at least as good as I need it anyway. And zoom back out a little bit here. And I will turn off the house original that we had. And you can see there, voila, is our base of what we're going to use to animate. Now you can see I don't have the chimney, and that's because I'm in Texas, and we never need chimneys because it's never cold in Texas. And I didn't put the bushes either because it never rains in Texas. It's just hot and dry, and oh, did I say hot? And of course there are driveways, but for my purposes for this video, we don't need a driveway. So there's my house, and I just noticed that I left off a corner, so I'm going to put this wall in here real quick. There. And so now there is our house that we're going to use, and I'm going to zoom out just a little bit more. And now I'm going to show you the magical solution that I found to make an animated video. Go to Window and Timeline.
You just blew my mind.
Now, you guys probably knew that, right? I didn't. I was determined to find a way to draw this house in an animated way, and I happened upon this timeline, which is pretty incredible. So I'm just going to click right here, Create Video Timeline, bam. Now what it's done is it's taken my two layers, house and trace, and put them over here on the timeline. Now, the good news is we're really pretty much done with house because we've already got what we need. This is the image that we're going to modify to make animated. So I'm just going to take this timeline for the house and just make it really small because I don't need that anymore. Now, what I am going to do is I'm going to click on the trace layer and click on the folder down here to say New Folder. And I'm just going to call this one Actions, and put this trace layer inside the Actions folder. And you can see it changed down here. So I need to open the Actions folder here, and there, once again, is my trace layer. And I'm going to shorten that up a little bit. And you can see that once my timeline goes past where the trace is, like right there, it's gone. So when I hover over it, that's showing the active frame. So this is important as we try to create an animated version of this. I'm going to scoot this over to the right so that we've got a little bit of time to work with. And I'm not going to start over here on the left. I'm going to go to the end, and that's pretty important about how we're going to make this magical house come to being. So right now I'm going to use this little zoom in thing here, and I'm going to zoom into the timeline a little bit, and I'm going to grab the edge of this layer, and you can see it says the start time and the duration is 15 frames. I want it to be like 2. There we go. So that's 2. So I'll bring my timeline over there, and now you can see that that is our finished frame of the trace. So what we're going to do is I'm going to take that frame, that layer, or frame, same way. I'm going to hold it and bring it down over the new layer, and it creates a new layer, and it says Trace Copy. Notice down here, this is something that I found out earlier that's kind of confusing. It's stacking these on top of each other, and if I continued the way that I'm going right now, this thing would be unusably huge. That's what she said. And so I'm going to put this, I'm just going to grab this frame and drag it in front of that one. And you can see it looks like it's making it real big. It's really not. It's just making it the same length, just dropping it on the same timeline. It says video group 1, same timeline. So now that's actually this frame, and that is this frame or this layer. So we're going to turn off the finished layer and go back to our frame before. So what we're going to do basically is animate the drawing process of this house backwards. So we're ending up with this, and now we're going to go backwards so that if we were drawing it forwards, where would we end up? Well, I'm going to say that the last thing we drew was this back wall and the foundation here. So I need to create this line being animated. So I've got that layer or that frame selected. I'm going to come over here and grab the eraser tool, make it kind of small like it is. I've got it 11, whatever those are, pixels. And I would suggest using the hard edge. The soft edge makes it a little bit harder to work with because it leaves some fragments behind, and we want to make sure, since we're erasing, we're going to use this hard round edge. So like I said, the last thing we're going to draw is that, let's pretend I drew this whole thing and I wanted my line to come to this point right here. So I'm just going to go in, and I'll go zoom in just a little bit more, and I'm just going to erase that little piece right there. So now I have two frames. I'm going to turn this one back on so you can see there's the second to the last and the last. And you can see as I go back and forth, it looks magically animated. So as you probably guessed, I'm going to rinse and repeat for a long time here. And don't worry, I'm not going to bore you with making you watch me do the whole thing. Like I said, I don't really have I don't really know what I'm doing anyway. So I'll probably figure it out and come back and tell you what I learned. But anyway, I'm going to grab this bottom layer, create a new one. It puts it on top, and now notice here, I guess Photoshop's smart, or smarter than me, I don't know, but it knows that I'm putting this all on one layer. I'm not creating individual stacked layers anymore, so it put it right there in front. Now, I still need to move this one in front of that one so that we get the final frame, second to the last, and the current one, and you can see it's highlighted. And so now I'm just going to erase a little bit more, and I'll make it kind of flat there. And now I've got 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And I'll just keep doing that. Copy, drag below. It's active. So then I just go in and erase. Great. Copy, drag below, erase. Copy, drag below, and erase. Now, as you'll see when we finish, how much of the line that you tell it to erase, you can change how fast it looks like you're drawing it. Obviously, if I took out a huge chunk, because these are only 2 frames each, it's going to look like I'm drawing really fast. And so if I'm slowing down, you would take out less so that it looks like you're going slow. Usually it starts out pretty fast. If we were drawing this, you'd probably go quickly and then slow down, quickly and slow down. So keep that in mind as you're drawing these. So you can see here how it's coming together. And now we've got a new frame that we've already enhanced. So we'll copy that one, drag below, and erase. And I'll just do a couple more of these so you can see. And I'm kind of making the decision of, which line I would have drawn last. So I'm going to probably just take this little piece right there and keep going, copy, drag below, and erase. Now I'm going to make this one not very much, so it looks like we kind of slowed down. Copy, drag below, and I'll make this one a bit longer. And I'm saying copy, I think the proper word is duplicate. Now, I will tell you this. I did look, and there is a keyboard shortcut for duplicate. Do not use that key. I'm not exactly sure why. I just remember that if there's somewhere that you can go up and say layer, duplicate, or something, but it really messes things up. It gives you some options that we don't need, and it also makes the length of the frame that you duplicate really long. It doesn't do what we're doing here, where it's copying the length of 2 frames. So I know this is kind of cumbersome to click and drag a couple of inches and then put it underneath. I know this is really laborious, but that's just the way it's going to have to be if you're going to be a Photoshop wizard master that I'm hoping to be one day. So we're just going to keep going. I'm going to go take just a little off of this because I want it to look like it's slowing down, and drag below. It's getting kind of confusing over here. Drag below, and then I'll take a little bit bigger chunk this time, and I promise I'll just finish this ridge top and then we'll look at it. Okay, I'll take even a bigger one this time. And one more. Duplicate, drag below, erase. I'm just going to do that whole thing. Okay, so now from here, if I play it forward, you'll see it looks like it's being drawn in there. It looks like we are really good. It looks like we know what we're doing. We're artists. We're professionals, and what else can you want? So I'm going to come over here to the timeline and just hit play, and there you can see it coming together. Watch it go again. So that's basically the concept that we're going to do for this entire house, by just duplicating, drag underneath, and erase. And you do that until you have a blank chalkboard. So now, once again, with the magic of video, I'm going to save you the pain and agony of watching me duplicate, drag below, and erase. But remember, I should name this video, Duplicate, Drag Below, and Erase. But anyway, if you remember that and follow the template of what we've started, then I'll show you how we can put it all together and make it look like it's correct going forwards. Okay? I'll be back in a sec. Okay, so now you can see a ton of layers that I've duplicated, and this creates the illusion when you play them back of it being drawn on. So now I'm going to hit play and let you see how it looks. I'm not so sure this is the order that would actually be drawn if I was drawing it freehand from scratch, but it gets the job done. So you can go and alter some of the speeds and which items are being drawn in what order. That all depends on the method and the order that you erase things as you go. But at least it looks like an animated chalk drawing, and we end up with a pretty good looking house once the animation's completed, and you haven't had to sit through hours and hours of trying to draw that freehand and to make it look right. So there you go. We've got I didn't even see how many layers we have, 100 and some odd. I can't see that far, 135, I think. So at 2 frames each, we're playing back at 30 frames a second. You can change that down here. So maybe you want to be playing at 24. Actually, most animated cartoons are done about 15 frames, some even 12. So they're a little bit stuttery. But I'm doing this with 30 frame playback, 2 frames a piece, so it's really kind of the same as doing it at 15 frames. But you could even shorten the length of each of these frames down to 1, which actually the sample that I showed you at the beginning was done with 1 second frames and intervals, so it was very smooth. This has a little bit of chop to it, but it's not bad. And so that is the first step. Well, not really the first, about the fifth step of creating our animated chalk effect. I'm going to zoom out a little bit here so we can see the whole thing. And so now I'm going to show you how we can add the letters in. First of all, I wanted to show you this. We are at 1001fonts.com. And then this is called the Chop. You can just Google Chop. And this is the font that I used. I call it the Cool Chalk font. It's the best one. There's several options out there. This is just the one I like the most. Just Google Chalk font if you want TTF or TrueType, or if you want a different format, you can get those as well. Now I'm going to combine all these layers together so that we don't have so much area taken up over here. And I'll just get our type, and I've already got Chop selected. So I'm just going to put, it's a little off the page there. Now the cool thing is that if you need to move your house, if we had done it just individual layers, we would have been screwed. But because we have them in a folder, we can just grab our tool, our move tool, whatever this is, the move tool, and just move it down here. So now when the animation plays back, it's down there in the corner. And the only reason we're really concerned with that is if we're going to add our text in here, that it's got plenty of space and doesn't mess up with our house. Of course, you can have other animations going at the same time. As a matter of fact, one of the things that you can do to save time and also just look cool, when this video that you've created of the chalk animation is playing back, you don't have to do one line at a time. You can actually have the ridge being drawn at the same time that the garage door is going on, at the same time the back wall. So it kind of it comes together a lot faster. It looks pretty cool because it's kind of revealing the whatever the finished image is. And of course, when you're doing it one frame at a time, when I get to right there, that looks kind of goofy because how did you know where to cut off those windows? Well, we're just a really good artist, right? So we knew where to cut those off because we knew that we were going to draw the roof in there or the gutter. But they don't have to know that. It ends up looking good at the end. So now we've got our PA 101, and I typed that on. I clicked the type tool and I typed in PA 101. Now the challenge is that all of that is on one layer. So if I move it around, that's all moving together. So we can't reveal that per se because it is text. It's a font. So there's a couple of ways to do it, but I'm gonna show you an easy way, and that's just to right click on our text layer. And again, there's probably a much easier, there's probably a macro that'll draw the whole house, and the type is, there's probably a macro that you just plug a USB port into your ear and it'll just create this whole thing. But short of that, you can right click on the PA 101 and I'm sorry, you got to click on you got to right click not on the T, but on the actual layer out here, and go down and say rasterize type. It's no longer a type. You know, if I have my font selected and I go in there, I'm just going to be putting in new characters. So it's no longer an editable type. So make sure that you get it correct. But at least now it is something that we can create an animation out of, just like we did the house. This is, if you will, the finished house. Now we just go back and do the same thing in reverse. And you can see here's our PA 101 layer from up here. It's already in the timeline, and it's a little bit longer. So we'll just grab the edge and make it short again. We'll try to get it down to 2 frames. I'm not going to quite make it. Get the playback head there and zoom in. And we'll drag this over to 2 frames right there. Playback head. So there's our finished product. And let me collapse this again. So here's PA 101. Now watch this. We're going to do, well, first of all, let's get another folder, make this easy. And I'm just going to say text. And we'll put our text in that folder. So now we're going to magically drag this down to, you guessed it, duplicate, put it under, and what do you think the next word is? Erase. Very good. Very good. So we're learning. So I'm going to make my my erase head just a little bit bigger because this is going to be a lot bigger, fast sweeps. So there's our 1, and I duplicate, drag it under, and erase. And so we're going to go, as a matter of fact, I don't even have to turn these eyes off because it's doing it for us in the timeline, if we looked at it here. Oh, actually, this is a good point to remind you to make sure to put all of the duplicated layers on the same playback track, because as I was hitting duplicate, I was creating all these individual layers, and that is what we call in the industry no bueno. So we're going to drag this one up here, and we'll just do that with each one of these, put them all on the same layer. And now it should, you can see there, we're back to back in the game. And as a matter of fact, we left off on an erase. We'll just do half of the 0 and duplicate, drag under, and erase. Do the other half. We'll go through this pretty quick here. Now we've finished the PA 101, so we're just going to hit play so we can watch it play back. PA 101, magical. And there's our house being constructed. Tell you what, let's go ahead and zoom back out so we can see all of our elements at the same time. And you see it's way over here, so I'm going to drag this over. So we can actually have... we can time it so that PA 101 is finished with its animation just as the house animation is being completed. So we'll just pick it up about here so you can see it come back. So just as we're about through, PA 101 starts writing on there as well. Now you saw it kind of stop a little early. We're going to go zoom back in and grab that last frame, this one here, and just drag it out as long as we need it. And now we can play that back, and it'll hopefully look a little bit better. Play back from there. Drawing the house. Here comes PA 101, and there it's done. So that is basically the entirety of this tutorial of how to do an animated chalk effect drawing. Plus you got your text up there, and there's all kind of different things you could experiment with, and that's the word I would suggest, is that you experiment. Or you could pay a lot of money and go to a class or ask somebody, but why would you do that? If you can spend hours and hours trying to figure it out yourself, why would you just spend a couple of minutes and ask somebody else? I don't know. But the good news is once you learn this, I guarantee you won't forget it. Now, just to wrap things up, we've got our animation here. We've got our cool background. We've got our timing set on the elements that we want drawn back. The only thing that you have left to do is you hit this little arrow down here, kind of like the share arrow on iOS. You click that, and that's the render video. So you can give your animation a name, tell it where you want to put it, and so forth. And you've got all your encoder settings and so forth, and your size. You can go through and tell it where to start and stop, and if you want it to render everything. So once you know, and you can also change the frame playback rate if you want to here. Once you're familiar with video and all these options, it's pretty, I mean, these, I don't remember if these are preset or just the way that I set them. This is what worked for me. And you render it out. It doesn't take long at all, and then you end up with a video that you can put in your timeline and make a video just like I did with this one here. Now you could also, one thing I wanted to point out is this video plays back, what is that, 2.5 seconds. No, it's not 2.5. It plays back in 11 seconds, the whole thing, public adjusting in the house. And the one that I just did was much longer. But that's because I put a whole lot more frames in here than I did the other one. But anyway, that's my tutorial. I hope it helps you. I hope it maybe saved you a little bit of time. And I know I was certainly looking for a solution for this for a long time and wasn't able to find it. And like I said, there's probably 800 different ways to do this better, but this is what worked for me, so I just want to pass it on. I hope you have a blessed day, and maybe I'll make another one of these tutorials and teach you something you already know. All right, bye-bye.